Let's speak live to a Labour MP, Andrew Lewin, who joins us live on the programme. And thank you for your time. I know that you're a supporter of Keir Starmer. You signed that letter. When you read Wes Streeting's letter and say, instead of vision, we have crisis, instead of division, we have drift, what do you make of that?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Look, I need to start by saying I'm really sorry to see that Wes has left the government. He was an excellent Secretary of State for Health, obviously one of the most talented communicators at the top of the Labour Party, but I don't agree with his decision, and I don't agree with his characterisation of the Prime Minister's speech. On the fundamentals, I've been saying to colleagues all week that I believe that the worst thing that we could do at this moment is to turn inward and have a leadership contest that would be chaotic. And I'm afraid the last 4 or 5 days have only strengthened my view, and that what we should be doing is uniting behind the Prime Minister and focusing on governing.
Sure, but we have chaos at the moment.
Look, I believe that the way to come through this is not to have a leadership contest, because any leadership contest would take weeks, if not months, to play out, and to draw a line under this today and to get back to supporting the Prime Minister, not least on a day, I was just hearing to your previous segment, where the economy in the first quarter grew more than any other G7 country, where we've had really good news on NHS waiting lists. We're starting to turn around the country, but we're turning inwards as a Labour Party, and I think that's a big mistake.
You are urging your colleagues, even at this stage, not to enter a leadership crisis. If that was to be the way it plays out, you think this all goes away? All of those criticisms that we heard from the electorate only last week, they are not listening to Keir Starmer and your government.
Well, look, it was a tough set of local election results. I mean, no doubt about that, and the Prime Minister has acknowledged it. The question, though, is what do we think the country wants at this moment? And I can tell you from my own inbox of constituents getting in contact with me in Welwyn Hatfield, I've had far more people say the last thing I want to see the Labour government do is to turn inward, change the Prime Minister, stop effectively governing for weeks on end whilst we have a leadership contest. And because many of them voted for people like me in 2024, because they wanted to see an end to the chaos that they'd seen as the Conservatives, who were cycling through Prime Ministers. So it is time.
Sure, but there are plenty of others. There are plenty of others, and many MPs, your own colleagues, who've been open, who've signed letters and lists saying they want a leader that is bolder, they want a better communicator, they want something different. So those are valid views. And has this not reached a point where it actually has to be thrashed out one way or another?
Of course they are more than valid views, and I've got respect for every single one of my colleagues. But the reality is everybody in the Labour Party knows the rules. In order to have a leadership contest, you need 81 people supporting a single candidate. And I'm afraid I just don't believe it's the job of the Prime Minister to facilitate a leadership contest. It's the job of the Prime Minister to govern and to deliver on the agenda that he was elected on less than 2 years ago as part of a 5-year term.
Sure. It's entirely possible, though, that there is somebody in your party that could be bolder, that could be better, and the public could connect with better. Is there not?
Well, look, there's lots of talent in the Labour Party, but I've got faith in the Prime Minister. It was just yesterday that we set out the King's Speech, 35 pieces of legislation to come forward. In particular, I'm passionate about the UK-EU relationship. He talked about Britain being at the heart of Europe on Monday. That's something that I completely endorse and I think is
But is the electorate listening to him any longer?
Well, I believe what the electorate doesn't want to listen to is Labour politicians saying we need a leadership race and we want to turn inwards and talk amongst ourselves.
Are they listening to him? You listed all those bills that you hope will change things. All of that may or may not be true, but it's no good if they're not listening to him. And that's what all the evidence of last week was, and prior to that, with record low personal poll numbers.
Well, I think our message this week, sadly, has been crowded out, understandably, by all the talk of leadership. And if we can get through this and get back behind the Prime Minister, then we can go about making our case to the country. We talked about the economy. We've also seen NHS waiting lists come down by a record level just this morning. If we weren't talking about leadership, I suspect we'd be talking more depth about the NHS and about the issues. And ultimately, I think that's what the public expects the government to do, especially one that was elected so recently.
Let me ask you a final question, because we are still not in a leadership contest. That may not emerge, but it also may emerge. Are you personally sticking with Keir Starmer if we move into that world? It was very interesting. I was listening to a Labour MP yesterday who's a supporter of Keir Starmer, also signed the letter supporting Keir Starmer. But when he was asked, if we get to a leadership contest, would you continue to support the Prime Minister, he didn't provide an answer and was pushed and still didn't provide an answer. Are you sticking with Keir Starmer, come what may, whoever enters any sort of race?
Sure, well, I'm very happy to give you that answer. As you know, I don't want there to be a leadership contest. If there is one, and that somebody has the 81 names and the Prime Minister stands, which I hope he does, he will have my vote and my support.